was ignored by my family, overshadowed by my mom's favoritism. No matter how hard I tried, I was always blamed for my sister's mistake. Growing up, I always knew I was second place in my own family. My younger sister, Lily, was the golden child, the one my mom adored, praised, and protected at all costs. No matter what she did, she was never wrong. And me, I was just there. The one who was expected to clean up her messes, take the blame when she screwed up, and quietly accept that I would never be good enough in my mother's eyes. It started when we were kids. If Lily broke something, I was the one who got yelled at. If she lied, my parents would believe her over me, no questions asked. But I always thought that one day things would change. That if I worked hard enough, if I proved myself enough, my mom would finally see me. I was wrong. The breaking point came on Lily's 18th birthday. My parents had thrown her a huge party. Everything she wanted, no expense spared. Meanwhile, my 18th birthday had passed a year earlier with barely a cake and a happy birthday text from my mom. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was used to it, but deep down it hurt. At the party, I did what I always did, stayed in the background. But then, disaster struck. Lily got drunk. Really drunk. She knocked over a whole table of drinks, shattered a few glasses, and made a complete scene in front of all her friends. I thought, for once, she'd have to take responsibility. Instead, my mom's eyes locked onto me. "What did you do?" she screamed, storming over. I blinked in disbelief. "I didn't break it." "Don't lie to me," she snapped. "I know you're jealous of Lily. You probably pushed her into doing this just to embarrass her." Lily, too out of it to defend herself, just slurred something incoherent. And that was all my mother needed to confirm her version of the story. "I can't believe you would ruin your own sister's birthday," she hissed, dragging me aside. "You're such a disappointment. No wonder Lily is the one people love." I felt something inside me snap. That night, after the party was over and I was left cleaning up the mess Lily had made, I realized something. No matter what I did, my mother would never change. She would never see me as anything but a shadow in Lily's spotlight. And I was done being invisible. I packed my bags that night, ready to walk away from a family that never saw my worth. But what I didn't know was that my decision would set off a chain of events that would change everything. Leaving wasn't as easy as I thought. As I stood at the front door with my packed bag, my hands trembled. Part of me still wanted my mom to stop me, to finally say something. Anything that showed she cared. But she didn't even notice. It was my dad who saw me first. "Where do you think you're going?" he asked, arms crossed. "Away from here," I said firmly. "I'm done being blamed for things I didn't do. Done being treated like I don't matter." He sighed like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You're overreacting. Your mother loves you, she just what?" I snapped. "Loves Lily more. Treats me like a punching bag every time something goes wrong. You've seen it, Dad. You know it's true." For a moment I thought he might finally admit it. But then he shook his head. "You're still her daughter. This is your family. You don't just walk away from that." But that was the thing, I already felt like I was on the outside. What difference would it make if I actually left? I turned without another word and walked out the door. I stayed with my best friend Ava for a few weeks while I figured things out. Her parents were kind enough to let me crash in their guest room. No questions asked. For the first time in my life, I felt a sense of peace. No blame, no guilt, just quiet. I worked odd jobs and saved up, determined to build something for myself. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. I could finally breathe without the weight of my family dragging me down. Months passed. My mom barely called. When she did, it was just to ask when I was done being dramatic and ready to come home. She never apologized, never admitted she was wrong. And that just made me work harder. Then one day everything changed. It started with a phone call. Ava handed me her phone, her eyes wide. "It's your mom." I hesitated before answering. "Hello." "Oh, thank God." My mom's voice rushed through the line, panicked and desperate. "We need you to come home." I frowned. "Why?" "It's Lily," she said, her voice cracking. She's in trouble. I should have seen it coming. Lily had always been reckless, knowing there would never be consequences for her actions. But this time it sounded serious. What happened? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Mom hesitated before finally admitting. She got into some legal trouble, and we need your help. I almost laughed. After all this time, they only called when they needed something. When I was struggling, they ignored me, but now that Lily had messed up, suddenly I was important again. I don't see how that's my problem, I said, my voice cold. Please, Mom begged. We don't have the money to help her. But you've been working, you're stable now. If you love your sister, you'll do this. I gripped the phone tightly, my heart pounding. After years of being ignored and blamed, after being pushed aside for Lily's sake, they had the audacity to ask me for help. They expected me to save the golden child. But this time, I wasn't going to be their scapegoat. I sat on the couch, gripping my phone as my mother's desperate voice rang through the speaker. She's your sister. You can't just let her suffer. I stared at the wall, expressionless. This was the same woman who spent years making me feel like I was never good enough. The same woman who dismissed me, belittled me, and let Lily get away with everything while I took the blame. And now, suddenly I was important because they needed something from me. Lily made her choices, I said flatly. And you made yours. You chose to ignore me, to treat me like an outsider in my own family. Now you want me to fix everything because your golden child finally messed up too big for you to cover it up. Mom let out a shaky breath. I know we made mistakes, but we're family. That has to mean something. I almost laughed. Family. You disowned me the second I stopped playing the role of the scapegoat. You didn't care where I went or how I survived. And now that you need money, suddenly I'm family again. It's not like that, she insisted. No, Mom, I interrupted. It's exactly like that. For a long time there was nothing but silence. Then she switched tactics. We're struggling, honey. You don't understand what it's like. The house is at risk, and your father's health isn't what it used to be. We have nothing left. You have a good job, a stable life. It wouldn't hurt you to help us out just this once. I gritted my teeth. She wasn't even asking me to help Lily anymore. Now she wanted me to save all of them. I thought back to all the times I had begged for their love, for their approval. The nights I cried because no matter what I did, it was never enough. They had watched me struggle, watched me suffer, and never once offered me a hand. Now they wanted me to give them everything. I closed my eyes for a moment, then exhaled slowly. I did struggle, I said, my voice firm. I worked my ass off to get where I am. And you weren't there for me when I needed you. So why should I be there for you now? Mom's voice cracked. Because we're your family. I clenched my jaw. No, Mom. Family doesn't treat people the way you treated me. Another silence. This one felt different. Heavier. Then her voice turned cold. You'll regret this. One day, you'll realize how selfish you're being. I shook my head, smiling bitterly. No. I regret not walking away sooner. And with that, I ended the call. I expected guilt to hit me afterward. I expected to feel something, anything, but all I felt was relief. For years, I had been the forgotten child, the scapegoat, the afterthought. But now, I was free. The texts kept coming. Some were angry. Some were desperate. Some were from extended family, scolding me for not being there for the people who raised me. But none of them had been there when I cried myself to sleep as a child. None of them had defended me when I was blamed for things I didn't do. Eventually the calls stopped. And when they did, I finally felt at peace. Ava and I sat on the balcony that night, sipping drinks under the stars. She nudged me with her elbow. So how does it feel? Finally cutting them off. I looked out at the city lights, feeling the weight of my past finally lift off my shoulders. It feels, I said, smiling for the first time in a long time, like I can finally breathe. And I knew without a doubt that I was never looking back.
So what did you guys think? Did she do the right thing ignoring family, or she could have helped them? Be sure to comment and tell me about your opinion about her. If you guys like this confession and want to listen more confession story like this, then click on the like button and subscribe to me. Your sub motivate me to create more video like this. See you in a next video with new story.